All right, so here we go. Yes, the Space Marine 2 team responds to some ideas that fans have regarding deeper customization options, and the dev team challenges you to change the game by giving your creative ideas for game modes, weapons, enemy factions, and so much more. And get this, they've introduced an entire system to track what is actually being implemented into the game going forward. Plus, yeah, this idea has already made it into the game. We've got to talk about it. And should we be worried about co-op partners being total idiots when matched with randoms? And what about puzzles and more? Well, we've got responses about this one as well. And Saber was asked about Helldivers 2 comparisons, and they gave a very interesting response as well. So, yeah, I say we start off with this one right here. Check it out. It says, there's still hope. And it goes on to say this. I think it would be amazing if they added this to the game. I'm already hyped. But if they add full-on creation instead of customization or even just different heads or skin tones, it would really seal the deal for me. And you can see here under the focus community, it says request to add marine facial feature customization, which seems to be a highly requested feature. Now, it was marked as nice to have by the dev team, and they actually did reply here as well, saying, hello, understandable request. This is something we will need to discuss during live ops. So it seems like this is something that they're mulling over and actually considering, and also something that you guys would like to see. Now, we do have further replies here. It says, see, this is how we get Focus Entertainment to implement changes, not by barking at them and demanding things. Give them time to make changes and work on their game. Give them the benefit of the doubt and give them time. But it's funny because some people are like, hey, slow down, the game hasn't even been released yet. But you know what? Focus, they actually opened up a very interesting area on their website, and it challenges you to basically change the game, as you can see right here. And they have 213 ideas created so far. But this is pretty interesting because they have a greenlit section over here, what ideas that would be in the pipeline to be actually implemented into the game, must have ideas as well. And then check this out, implemented ideas, which is marked as a 4. So there's 4 implemented ideas. I'm kind of like, very curious about that one. So if we check that out here, we have, of course, the emote wheel, online social hub, which we know about, photo mode, and it says, I want to see the developer's response in terms of sharing ideas. But this one's interesting because, yes, the emote wheel is going to be a thing in Space Marines 2, and it is confirmed that it is going to be able to provide your squads with key information on the battlefield. So this is going to be great also when playing with randoms. I know a lot of you guys actually asked me about that in the comment section. So get this, yeah, it seems like you will be able to ping other players in the game. So that is great. If you don't want to have a mic on or something like that in randoms, you will have that as an option. And we also have a brand new interview with the CEO of Saber. And check it out. It says, even if your Space Marine teammates are idiots, you can still win. Every online multiplayer game has bad actors, but Saber reassures us that even if your Space Marine 2 team are idiots, it's still fun. And hey, some of you might be a little bit worried about this, thinking the game sounds like it's going to be too easy, a total pushover, but that is not the case. Again, there's going to be those 4 difficulties. But let's get into what was said about this, and also this leads us into some comparisons to Helldivers 2. So check it out right here. It says this, having played Space Marine 2's co-op PvE mode during the recent preview sessions, it's clear that having good teammates is the key to success. While my squad's AI partner did a decent enough job, in some cases it did feel like a little bit of dead weight, especially because it seemed rather hesitant to actually resurrect people when they were down. Now, it's clear that while Space Marine 2 has its solo player campaign, which by the way can be played with other players, it's very much positioned as a multiplayer game. We call the PvE operations mode refreshingly dynamic in our Space Marine 2 preview, but how will Saber ensure that even if one teammate isn't performing as they should, the experience will still feel fun to play? And that is the most important question, because you can have trolls and you don't want that to bring down your experience, even if you're going through that. Now, here is the response here. It says, I've worked on a number of co-op games, and this is the problem. Games that over-rely on people playing together and make teamwork a requirement to be successful sometimes fall apart because, sadly, humans do whatever they want to do. And I love my gaming friends, but I want to kill them sometimes. The most successful co-op games are the ones that, even if your teammate are idiots, still allow you to kick ass, because it's just refreshing when you got 3 people that are doing exactly what they need to do, and one guy screws around, it's like, fuck you. So in Space Marine 2, there are no requirements for group combat, but there's definitely an advantage if you gang up. And I've also seen some required teamwork in other games as well, and it can really, really hamper the experience if that one guy is just not following along whatsoever. And I'm sure, yes, Space Marine 2 will be better with a solid group that knows how to communicate, especially on those harder difficulties. But this is great to know that, yes, you can get away with playing this game if someone is totally goofing off and not doing the right thing. I think that is great to note right there. Now, it does go on to say this as well. It says, the conversation then turns to Helldivers 2, which, while it's currently in a bit of a tricky spot, has arguably redefined modern online co-op PvE. When we ask if the prospect of a new online multiplayer bug slaying renaissance excites him, Willits laughs. He says this, I think something like 10 million people play Helldivers, but 25 million players play World War Z. When you have numbers like that, it shows you that people like multiplayer co-op games where you can just blow shit up with your friends. He goes on to say, I played the heck out of Helldivers 2, and it legitimizes what we are making, and it shows that these type of games can be very successful because people are social and want to play together. I love the focus here on PvE. Time and time again in interviews, they really do highlight PvE as like kind of like the bread and butter of this game. Of course, it doesn't sound like they're going to be neglecting PvP, by the way. For those of you that are curious, we did see that roadmap. They plan to expand that as well. But this is so refreshing to see. I have said for years and years, I want more PvE-centric games. I think people really, really want that. And it goes to show by the numbers with Helldivers 2. And I think, you know, what we've seen from the previews from this one, that this is highly sought after. And it seems like Space Marine 2 is in a very, very nice spot to be successful. Now, we also have this article right here. It says, probably won't be added until they add. Space Marine 2 fans may need to wait for one specific addition to the game. Interesting. So this leads us to this right here, Beaky Please. So players are begging for this helmet customization option, of course, and it is basically the talk of the community right now when it comes to customization. But there's also some details you probably didn't know about the Beaky helmet. Check this out right here. It says this, beaked helmets, often called Beakies by fans, are one of the standout features of the Space Marines. These originate from the early days of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. The helmets are part of the Mark VI Corvus power armor designed for and during the time of technological advancement and warfare. Now, the beak on these helmets are designed to store additional advanced sensors that pose an advantage on the battlefield for Space Marines. So yeah, I can see why people want this added, considering it has such a deep history in the lore of Warhammer 40K, and maybe the devs will eventually get to it. But again, they do have that whole idea area that you can actually submit your ideas to. So if you guys are vocal enough, I am sure that they would actually consider implementing it into the game in time. But you know what time it is? It is time to go over your top comments. Remember, leave a comment down below. It could end up right here in a future video. And yes, remember, I'm doing a Space Marine 2 giveaway. Check out the top pinned comment for a chance to enter that and win a copy of Space Marine 2. Now, let's get into the first top comment here. It says, the fact that your squad in PvE co-op is put into the bigger narrative in the campaign is so good. I love that type of connection. When I found that out at first, I'm like, this team knows what they're doing in terms of tying together the world and narrative, and that gets me super excited for them expanding stuff as well, because it seems like story will be important to them, and I do love that. All right, so next up, we have, if we get Terminators, you all ain't seeing me anymore. Yeah. And we got a reply here that says the Red Wake, and hell yeah. And there's so many comments here rooting for Terminators being added to the game. But even more so, we have you guys saying that you want chaplains, Terminators, and apothecaries. And we cannot forget about the Tech Marine and the Librarian as well. Man, there is a lot they can do with the classes, actually. I feel like we're only in the beginning stages of the game, and once again, I'm left curious, where will this game be in like a year's time? We'll have to wait and see. Now, Omni-Man had some interesting words here. He says, this feels like an old school mid-2010 game, but with all the modern tech thrown in. where a game would come out with dedicated PvE and PvP modes with deep progression and customization, and the only things sold to you were map packs or character packs. War for Cybertron, Fall Cybertron come to mind. Yeah, and it's almost even better, you know? When it comes to keeping the community together, that's their focus. So the most important content, that big content, like additional operations, missions, you know, that sort of thing, those will all be free. It's the customization that will be paid for. And I just think that is such a brilliant way to handle post-launch, because it's going to keep that community together and thriving instead of separating people, you know, through like expansion packs or what have you. That can cause the audience to kind of separate for sure. So this is definitely the way to go. And yeah, it should add longevity to the community's life. At least I'm crossing my fingers. We'll see. But there it is, the latest happenings around Space Marine 2. Stay tuned for more news and updates. As always, I have you guys covered, and I will see you all next time. Take care.